Hello and welcome to TechCrunch TV. My name is Alex. I write for TechCrunch, and I'm joined today by Chris Velazco, one of our writers in New York City. We're going to talk about the Surface 2, the Surface Pro 2, and what Microsoft is now kind of building for their holiday hardware lineup. Chris, you were on site today at the announcement. What'd you think?
Overall, I was impressed with the hardware, but then again, I'm always kind of impressed with Microsoft's hardware. The original Surface RT was one of my favorite hardware designs of all time, but the problem was the software never really lived up to it. And I think that's a lot of what we're going to see going forward with the Surface 2, and to a lesser extent, the Surface Pro 2.
So your argument is that Windows 8.1 doesn't rectify enough of Windows 8's issues to make the actual hardware itself functional?
I wouldn't go that far. It does solve a lot of the problems that I had with Windows 8, just kind of coming out of the gate. But my primary concern is just sort of from a software and application ecosystem. When I picked up the original Windows RT, the Surface RT, there was really nothing there for it. And even now, if I decide to charge it and take it for a spin, there's still not enough there to keep me coming back to it. So functionally, from Microsoft's perspective, they're doing what they can to plug those holes. But a lot of this is going to come down to third-party developer support, and there's nothing there that makes you want to come back to it.
The question is, they've had it out for a year now, Windows 8, and now there's more than 100,000 applications or what have you. But you're saying that's not enough. So the question is, what applications is the Windows Store missing that would make it a viable platform to allow the Surface 2 and the Surface RT to become viable options? I mean, is it 200,000 apps? Is it 20 specific applications? What's really lacking?
So the argument that people get hung up on is this sort of the importance of numbers, of App Store numbers. 100,000 apps is great, and we've seen guys like Windows Phone and BlackBerry kind of talk up how quickly or how not quickly they've hit these milestones. But milestones only really speak to one part of an App Store's health. A lot of the quality, I don't think, is there for a lot of the Windows applications. We saw this really, really early on, where there was a lot of just sort of junk that filtered through. And that's not so much the case anymore, but we're starting to see quality as a whole lift. And that's a good sign. We're definitely making progress.
I mean, the thing is, when they launched the RT, it was a bet on Windows 8 as a platform being mature. Windows 8 was utterly immature. But with 8.1 and the Surface 2, Surface 2 being the new version of the Surface RT, their bet makes a lot more sense to me. I'm not saying the Windows Store is full enough or there's sufficient application support, but the idea that the Surface 2 can lean on 8.1 as its core application platform makes more sense than last year, especially because in 8.1, they've introduced new built-in applications that are pretty strong. So my question is, will consumers buy into Microsoft's argument that this platform is now mature enough for daily use? And the hardware is great, but I do share your skepticism. What do you think about the price point for the Surface 2?
It's fine. It's fine. I understand why they went for it, and I imagine with the Surface 2, if you're sort of unfamiliar, starts off at $449. So a pretty aggressive price point. And considering the quality of the hardware, and I hate to keep bringing it up, but considering the quality of the hardware, I'd say, from that perspective at least, it's worth it. But you're asking me whether or not consumers will sort of look at the Surface 2 and Windows 8.1 as a whole and kind of decide that this is worth their time and their money and their effort. I'm just not convinced yet.
Another problem is that to use a Surface 2 properly, you have to have a touch or type cover. And the new version of those cost $119 or $129. So it's $449 for the tablet itself, but that only gets you most of the way there. You're not at the conclusion point. You can't use Office effectively without a keyboard, right? So, it's going to be a minimum of what would that be, $570 essentially once you get a touch cover for it, and that's more than an iPad cost.
And that's assuming you're fine with a touch cover. I've been using it from day one. The new version of the touch cover that was introduced alongside the Surface 2 is significantly thinner, and it's significantly more sensitive. So it's it's geared towards picking up those glancing blows that you'll kind of tap out on your keyboard. But in my experience, just kind of playing around with it, it's still no replacement for a physical keyboard. That's why the type cover, it seems like a very necessary accessory to go with it. The touch cover, I can't do it. It doesn't do it for me.
I dislike the type cover even more than touch cover, but I did get to play around with the new touch cover somewhat in Redmond, and I will say it's about twice as good, or maybe 3 times as good. I can't use the original touch covers.
Yeah, 3 times as good as something that sucks. It's not great.
Right, but I mean, they've improved the technology enough that I think you could use it on a day-to-day basis. I think people could become accustomed to it. I mean, the iPhone keyboard, for example, is abysmally bad, but we've all become very ingrained in its use. And I think the touch cover is now to the point of functionality.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's interesting too is that the software keyboard on Windows 8.1 is phenomenal. Like, it's one of the best. So it's sort of interesting to see this juxtaposition between a really, really strong software keyboard, which is where a lot of OEMs kind of have trouble, and then this hardware accessory that it's really cool and it sounds great and it's really thin and it protects your screen and everything, but it doesn't quite go all the way. So it's interesting to kind of see how those two play off of each other. But
well, wherever the touch cover journey ends, we're now a lot closer to its conclusion. I mean, it is a much better piece of technology, especially with its new gesture support. That's kind of neat.
That is, in fairness, yeah, that's really cool.
I think it was really smart to build that in, because why not treat the entire thing essentially as one large touch surface that can accept input, because there's enough sensors on there for all of your fingers at once.
Right.
I'm just bummed out by the price. I was really hoping they were going to bring that down a little further to make it a more palatable price point for the average consumer. Like, make it 100 even, not 120. But they kind of like grunt and stare at you and say no, in my experience at least. Talk to me about the Pro. You love the Surface Pro 2. Why is that?
I really like it. I mean, it's. Let me preface it by this. If I was on the market looking for a Windows machine that I would carry around with me day to day and actually get work done, I probably would not buy a Surface Pro 2. That said, I've always been a fan of the Surface Pro hardware. It's a very compelling concept, and with the Surface Pro 2, they've increased the battery life and they've improved the screen dramatically, so the version that we're getting now is much, much closer to the sort of Microsoft Surface ideal. It's the device that they should have made the first time around, but probably couldn't for technical reasons or financial reasons. I'm kind of enamored with the thing, and I'm taking it you're not.
No, I wouldn't say that. I'm just disappointed by the price. I mean, because you have to look at the Surface Pro 2 from the enterprise perspective, and from that lens, the pricing makes sense. But the fact that it went from $899 to $899 in a year is a little disappointing to me. They made no downward progress on the price of the Surface Pro in an entire year of life, which is surprising in a way. Also, I did the math today. If you get the most expensive Surface Pro 2, the power cover, and the dock, it's $2,200, which is a lot of money.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, so people will buy it. I mean, the Surface Pro sold well, and they've solved a lot of its problems, so the Surface Pro 2 will probably also sell well in some channels, but it won't be a mass market device, and that leaves us with the Surface 2 with the mass market device, and we're still not sold on the application support. That makes me kind of worry about overall sales numbers for the Surface line moving forward, which is a bummer because the Surface 2 hardware is awesome. It's too bad that the platform it's built to support isn't mature enough to really let the hardware sing. And I think Microsoft knows that. I hope they do. What do you think?
I'm pretty much right there with you. Like, it's really a shame because Microsoft has always been really, really good at hardware. With these two in particular, Microsoft, I think, really, really hit their stride. You and I were talking before we started rolling how frankly kind of sexy the Surface 2 is, and I hate using the word sexy with regard to devices because it's just so hackneyed cliche.
I would totally date a Surface 2 if that's physically possible. I'm just putting that out there.
I would take a Surface 2 out to dinner. Let's put it that way. But you're right. Like the application support and the developer support and Microsoft, to their credit, they're plugging away, they're filling in the holes. But the compelling argument for owning one of these devices, I just don't think is there yet.
Well, I will say one thing about the Surface 2. If I took that out to a Starbucks, if I was going to work to stay in a Starbucks for once, I think I would have the coolest looking device in the entire place. Just flat out. I mean, the Surface 2 is just that attractive to me. And that brings us to our final point. What do you think about keeping the Surface RT around for $349? What's your view on that?
It's stupid. It didn't
Interesting. Why?
It didn't sell before. Like, people have... The critical sort of disdain for this thing, I think, has permeated people's perspective so much so that you can sell this thing for like $250, and people just sort of know going into it that Windows RT kind of sucks, and the original Surface kind of sucked. And that's perhaps not a fair thing to say, because like I've said before, the Surface RT hardware was great. I really loved it, and I bought it on that strength. But I feel like in a way the original Surface has been poisoned. I don't think that they're going to get the traction that they were hoping to.
Well, they really can't sell it for $250, and here's why. If you go on Amazon right now and try to buy a copy of Office Professional, say, you can spend like $400 on a copy of just Office itself. And the Surface RT comes with a version of Office. So if they start selling that for $250, you can just buy the hardware and get Office for less money than just buy an Office. And then you kind of reach this weird hardware-software price differential that's negative and flipped. I think that harms them. So, but here's my kick on this. I think that they have enough excess inventory of the RT. Why not keep selling it? I mean, to them, they don't lose anything by generating more revenue off of a product they've basically written off their books. So, you know, it doesn't really cost them much.
Yeah, I mean, they've got this stuff kicking around. I'm not saying that they should just get rid of them. They have them, sell them through, do what you got to do, push them out there, and try and build a base for RT. But I'm really curious to see how well this kind of plays out for them.
And that's what we're going to end on. Prediction: how many of the new Surface 2 and Surface 2 Pros will be sold by EOI end of year 2013?
God, I don't even know.
Come on. No hedging.
You can't put me on the spot like that.
I just did. Come on.
I want to say like 6, but then I sound like an asshole.
Oh, not 6 million. You mean 6 total?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, Lord in heaven. Okay, so that's a little low. Okay, 6. Okay, that's a little severe. I'm going to go with like I think 2 million.
2 million. I would okay. 6 was meant tongue in cheek, but 2 million. That sounds fair. I'll give you that. I could see that happening.
All right, and we'll come back and do this again once we have actual sales numbers following the holiday season.
And we're going to see which one of us is right. I think 6.
If it is
a strong
6,
argument
I quit,
for 6.
just in general. So we'll see.
All right.
All right, thank you, Chris.